Paint, canvas, brush, art. What is art? Art is said to be the expression of the soul, feelings transferred from hands to medium, the applications of human creative skill and imagination in visual form. Lines, color, texture, dimension, art. Contemporary art. It is defined as the art of today. But what does it really mean? I have this feeling that there's more to it than meets the eye, and I intend to find out.
Communication, universe,
Society. Mirror.
I am Marchan, and this is Reflection.
Hi everyone, my name is Marchan, and this is the first day of the production of a documentary film about contemporary art. Today, I'm hoping I can start some planning in order to start the actual production. But anyway, here I go.
Honestly, I don't know much about art in general, even more so about contemporary art. So I'm really hoping I can learn a lot through this experience. In the end, I decided that the best way to gather information is to conduct an interview with some contemporary artists in the area, so I started with that. Now, on to the documentary in 3, 2, 1.
Contemporary art is defined as the art of today. As such, it reflects the complex issues that shapes our diverse, global, and rapidly changing world. Through their work, many contemporary artists explore personal and cultural identity, offer critiques of social and institutional structures, or even attempt to redefine art itself. Artists like Manny Montelibano, Isabel and Alfredo Aquilizan, and Duddley Diaz shed some insights to what lies beneath the surface of contemporary art. What is your most famous work?
our famous work. That would be Project Belonging, right?
That's right. We worked on that for about 10 years. But recently, our project, Another Country, has been gaining a lot of attention.
Project Another Country is actually a collection. I think the one that leaves a mark on people the most is Here, There, Everywhere, which is actually a part of that collection.
I actually consider two of my works to be well known. The first would be the one called Escapeche, Filipino Sweet and Sour, which is about Filipino OFWs and my personal favorite. A 5-channel video at art installation entitled Sorry for the Inconvenience, which I made in 2011. I think people love it so much because it exudes different reactions from the way the video was made.
I don't know about which one is the most famous, but I think my work, Pictures number 3, with messengers is quite known. It is a sculpture made from wood and acrylic, and it depicts a portrait of a monk-like subject matter together with 3 creatures at the bottom.
What are your preferred styles, elements, and principles?
We try to use everyday materials as much as possible.
For example, in Here, There, Everywhere, we use artworks.
We do this because we like to focus on the involvement of other people. People we would normally call as non-art people, and we find that using everyday materials really help them relate and connect more with our art.
I mostly use video as a medium, edit them in a way that expresses subtleties and symbolism. By way of video or internet media installation values and space, especially when it comes to the positive and negative area of the film, are also usually where I place focus on.
Well, I'm a sculptor, so I often work with common sculpting medium, like wood, clay, and cast bronze.
As for the elements, we utilize forms the most. Since most of our works are three-dimensional, we don't really dally much with color as it is limited to the materials we use.
Yes, whatever things we use in the artwork, we use their natural color most of the time.
My style would be the fact that my works often depicts ancient myths and Christian liturgical art, and I tend to focus a lot on the form since my work are rarely abstract. and have a definite subject matter. I also use acrylic in my painting, so I focus on space and color, especially when using highlights and shadows.
Why are your works considered as contemporary art?
I consider my art as contemporary because it uses a digital medium, fitting for the digital age. Also, the messages in my art depict current issues. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I decided to take political turn by putting together flashing images of famous speeches by political powerful people. In the Filipino context, I created it in order to open up the minds of the viewers to see how history and media manipulate the world we live in. And I think it is very important message these days.
Well, we are contemporary artists, aren't we? But besides that, there are facts that we use unconventional materials to make our art. I think that's mainly why people consider our art contemporary.
The works are also a reflection of our authorship and co-creation. The series toys with the idea of value in art.
My works can be considered as a contemporary art because it challenges notions of identity, sexuality, culture, and history in a way that it is not obvious. Contemporary art is known for its yearning to be understood, and the intentions of my sculptures cannot be understood without looking twice.
If you will describe contemporary art in one word, what would it be?
Thinking about it, the word I would choose would be diverse. In my works alone, I've already covered a lot areas with pressing issues. The riches of contemporary art is limitless. That's why I think it is incredibly diverse.
Society. It's simple. Contemporary art is society. It depicts in all sorts of shapes and forms, whether it is with paint on canvas or with videos on screen.
Communication. As I said, we use our art in order to connect with other people and communicate what we and they would like to express.
For me, it would have to be the word mirror. Our project Another Country was inspired by our migration, as well as the migration by countless Filipinos in hopes of finding greener pastures. In a way, our creations reflect happenings in our society.
Hello?
Mark, how's the documentary going?
Oh, it's going well. All the endeavors are done.
But
I feel like there's still something missing.
don't worry, you'll figure it out. Maybe look for another angle. Just let me know when you're done.
Okay, thanks. I had the feeling contemporary art means something more than just a paint on canvas. And this was showcased in two of the artist's words, mirror and society. So I decided to take one step further. I traveled to Metropolitan Museum of Manila in order to look for more answers. There are a lot of artwork in the museum, but the first art that caught my eye was the art entitled Bumnabum by Pablo, Baen, Santos. It is a visually cramped oil painting that used different tones of earthy colors and maximized the space in the canvas. It is considered a contemporary art because first and foremost, it was created in 1997. Another reason was it depicts a picture of a present issue, like specifically urbanization and overpopulation. The next painting I saw was entitled Utang by Charlie Ko. True enough, its name fits the artwork, which is a satirical representation of our country's debt with other nations. The oil painting utilized dark values of color to symbolize heaviness of the topic. In addition, emphasis on the colors of the subject matter was applied. Lastly, the principle of movement was also used. It is also considered as contemporary art
because the artist experimented with colors instead of just using them to bring reality to the paintings. After a bit more perusing, I stumbled on another artwork entitled Tightrope. It was created by a group of members called Saling Pusa, with one of its members is Elmer Barlongan, the founding member. Just like with Utang, the style of artwork is also quite satirical and implores viewers to think about its meaning. In addition, there was also a lot of movement in the art. The color used for oil on canvas painting had a low intensity showcasing dull colors. It is a contemporary art because it shows another current issue, like how Filipinos are sometimes viewed by the powerful countries and how our position as a developing country gives us the disadvantage and makes us feel like we're walking on a tightrope. The next one, the oil painting called Eternal Damnation. It is another contemporary art found in the Met. It was created by another artist called Anting Anting. It is considered a contemporary art as it was only created in 2010. In addition, the artwork does not depict realism in perfection. Instead, it implores viewers to think about the deeper meaning of it. It is something that characterizes the contemporary art from older types of art. The principle of variety is also clearly shown, highlighting the unique quality of artwork, which shows a collage of different subject matters in one painting. The last painting is then called Epilogo, created by a group of members named Sanggawa. The artwork utilized line decently in enhancing perspective and space in creating depth and shadows. Movement was also emphasized between the different subject matters. It considered a contemporary art because it incorporated also old subject matters like Jose Rizal and combined them in one painting to create satirical representation of today's community.
After perusing some other contemporary art, I returned to continue the editing process for the documentary film. It was a slow process, and by the time I almost finished editing, there was still something missing. I really wanted to get to the bottom of the contemporary art and the things that make it special.
What did you learn? In documentaries, nothing would matter if you as a creator did not learn anything. All along, I always have this feeling that there's something missing, but it turns out that what's missing is my reflection of what I've learned through this experience. Thanks to the interviews and the different artworks, I learned that contemporary art was indeed a mirror of society. It is a reflection of the times. Different works of the art that exist in many different forms echo what it's like to live in a particular time. Art is one artist, as historians are to their journals. Art reflects society, but most importantly, it is art that makes us reflect that society, and that's just as important. It's a wrap. Let's go.